I want to take some time just to talk about some key points of supervision of paraprofessionals. Your book and readings do a pretty good job of talking about it overall. I do want to point out some things and make sure that some things were understood from those materials. One of the biggest issues that I see is the instructional planning. There are a lot of times, and especially with new teachers out there in the field that I've supervised, that I come in and they've got 3 or 4 paraprofessionals and they're doing small group instruction, one-on-one instruction, and the paraprofessional is kind of making up as they go along, or having a packet of worksheets that they're just working the child through. It's really important that the teacher of record, the special education licensed teacher, is really in control of that instructional planning. I think I mentioned that before when we talked about the roles of the paraprofessional and them not being the sole designer, deliverer, and evaluator of that instruction. As much as you can, it is really your responsibility to be that instructional planner for the child's education if they are receiving the day-to-day core content material in your classroom. That's not so much the case if it is more of an inclusion model where you are out in the classrooms or you're sending a paraprofessional out there in the classrooms. Then it's your job to plan with that general education teacher or assist the paraprofessional to do that. So you are ultimately responsible. It is a good idea to try and co-plan if you are having the paraprofessional do instructional pieces either with small groups or individuals. It's not always possible because of scheduling issues, but you need to have some sort of systematic way of communicating that planned instruction to where it's understood and can be followed through with. Making schedules is one of the, or can be, I should say, one of the most problematic things in running a special education program if it's not done well. Making schedules can seem like a very tedious task, but it is so worth your time for a couple of reasons. Ultimately, you are responsible for the effective use of that paraprofessional staff, the FTE, the full-time employee that you are being given, as well as to make sure that you are providing services to each of those individual students. And if it says that they are going to get such and such service in their IEP, to make sure that that is happening by allocating the resources that you have, including your paraprofessional staff. Good scheduling will help you when also staff is low, and what I mean by that is, people get sick, people call off. In strong districts, they will be able to provide you with substitute teachers for those paraprofessionals. Sometimes it doesn't always happen. But even when you do get substitute teachers, you can't overnight teach them what that paraprofessional knew to do on a day-to-day basis. So you've got to make adjustments. But having a good, strong schedule and knowing how you can adapt it if that person is not there or available is critical. So being on top of those schedules and making sure that they are aligned with one another so that you don't have misuse of time or misallocation, and that is really up to you to do. And it can get complicated because when you have students come and go, that may mean that your allocation of resources has to change every time the dynamics of your classroom change, and that may happen. So make sure that you're allocating enough time to do those schedules and get input. Use it as a team-based approach, but ultimately you are responsible. Also, whenever you gain a paraprofessional, either at the beginning of the year or mid-year, whenever that happens, paraprofessionals come with a huge array of knowledge base and of experience. You could get someone who is brand new and has never been a paraprofessional before, or you could get someone who is partway through a teacher ed program and is wanting to become a special ed teacher, knows quite a bit, has gained a lot of information. Or even a third scenario, you could gain someone who's been a paraprofessional for a very long time, and possibly, not just because they've been there around a long time, but possibly they've picked up some bad habits and you need to look at retraining in newer methods, more effective methods, maybe just in positive methods because they have gotten some poor training along the lines. It is something that you need to take into consideration when you're coming in with a new paraprofessional, that you are going to have to make time to observe them, find out where their knowledge base is, find out where their comfort levels, their strengths and weaknesses are, if their knowledge base is accurate, if their skills are up to date, and then be able to teach them. So maybe modeling for them, having them shadow you, having them shadow someone else that you know is competent of certain types of tasks, and then possibly, come up with a plan to retrain, which can be touchy, but sometimes necessary. When paraprofessionals get moved around, sometimes it's for no reason other than programs just change or preferences change and things happen. But sometimes it can be because that person wasn't working well with another team. Sometimes won't have any impact on how they work with you. Sometimes it's a huge red flag. So make sure if you're in on the hiring process, which we'll talk about in a minute, that you're, considering those things in how you're allocating your time in working with them for the first few weeks or however long. Okay. Well, the huge meat of supervision is that many districts expect the licensed professional teacher within the special education classroom, or that supervising teacher, to be the one that formally supervises and evaluates paraprofessionals. This may not be the case in your district. You need to find that out first of all. If it is in fact something that you do, or something that you do in collaboration with the administrative staff, you need to find out those district expectations. You need to make sure that you are aware of any formal proceedings as far as formal observation forms, particular items that paraprofessionals throughout your district are rated and evaluated on. You need to know exactly what to be looking for, aside from things that you're concerned about and that make good paraprofessional staff. You need to think of it as a district holistically. The biggest thing that I can tell you is to document. Have a notebook, have a place to make notations. Make sure that it's not publicly viewable or that it's not in easy reach of people, just because that's confidential information. But make sure that when you have a conversation with a staff member that's important, or you're making changes in the staffing or the scheduling, or there's a conflict that has to be resolved, or even somebody's professionalism with their ethics is an issue, or they're calling off or whatnot. Now that part of it, of course the HR department is going to have a hand in that, but that might factor into some other things that are going on. So make sure that you are documenting what's going on, and not just the negative things. Make sure you're documenting the positive things. It could be that down the line your principal asks you for, tell me who's doing a great job, tell me, I'd like to recognize one of our paraprofessionals, tell me, A, B, C, and D. And of course you might know that off the top of your head, but you want some anecdotal information to back that up, or some data of some sort to say, yes, they're doing a great job, they are consistent with this, or they have accomplished A, B, and C. So document is a great thing. Now I believe it was the Snell book, one of your sources and references this time in this unit, talked a little bit about questioning and the hiring process and the interviewing process, and I thought that those were great questions. This is something that you will probably get support with your administration. Other special ed teachers that you have in the building or in the district may give you a lot of heads up about how that process works for your district. That's a very district specific process and how your involvement plays out. But make sure that you are prepared in asking the right kinds of questions if you're involved in the interview process. Make sure that, if you're concerned about how someone will fit into the collaboration of your team, ask questions about how they work with people, or what they envision their role to be like, or what experience they have in working with a team. Ask those questions. Those are important things to do. Now, communication is huge, 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 huge in working with a paraprofessional staff. Your communication skills, reflecting back on Unit 1, just in the positive day-to-day communication and being direct and using the right body language and eye contact, being a good listener, an active listener, all of those things are vital in working with a staff to support you, and more so support the students that are there. Conflict resolution, which was another piece of that unit, is also large. You need to make sure that you are versed in that direct and indirect conflict resolution, and how to confront somebody in a positive way, or at least not in a negative way, in order to try and resolve a conflict. You can't ignore issues when they're going on. You have to be the facilitator. You have to be the one that steps up and tries to take care of things. Now, if it's an extreme situation, I don't suggest you do that. I suggest that you get administrative support. But if it's minor conflicts that are causing difficulty between the paraprofessional staff, or between you and a paraprofessional, or a paraprofessional and a parent, you need to facilitate some resolution. You can't let it go. I was talking to a former assistant superintendent and special ed director, and he was saying, it's really interesting. Sometimes you don't hear anything about paraprofessionals, and then at the end of the year you get a special ed teacher in your office saying, well, I really think this person would be better placed elsewhere. And that kind of made me think, if we're not doing our due diligence in working with that staff, in attempting to resolve conflicts, in making our documentation, in proper training and proper support, you can't expect administration to support wanting to move someone at the end of the year when you haven't done all those things. So you need to make sure that you can do that. And if this is new to you, if supervising anyone is new to you, go to the support of your other special ed teachers. There may be another one in the building that has another support system of paraprofessionals. There may be one in the neighboring elementary school, or in the feeder middle school. Or even your coordinators at the district level. Get some support, because they will kind of give you their rookie mistakes, as I call them. But the scheduling, planning, communication, conflict resolution, all of those things are key. If you are not brushing those under the carpet, you're going to have a much more successful time in managing a small group of people. We're going to talk about teaming and leadership, and that's another huge component of how to get your team to work together well.